was a bloody weekend for law enforcement across the country. Liberal crime policies facing intense new scrutiny after several police officers were gunned down. The NYPD is grieving the loss of rookie officer Jason Rivera, who was shot and killed responding to a domestic dispute. His partner is now clinging to life. In a chilling detail, the gunman reportedly kept shooting at the two officers even as they lay motionless on the ground. In Texas, a manhunt is underway for a suspect who murdered a deputy during a traffic stop near Houston. And in Washington, D.C., a police officer shot and wounded, but was thankfully released from the hospital. Democrats in New York being pressed for solutions. Here's how they are responding.
We have to do more to fight the scourge of illegal guns on our streets.
Illegal guns is an important first step, but we must also address bail reform. New York is the only state in the country that does not allow a judge to detain a defendant who poses an immediate threat to the community.
And the White House confronted over how it plans to keep Americans safe.
Does he know that after a year in office, people do not feel safe in this country?
We've seen a surge of crime over the last 2 years. Would you agree with that?
As the murder rate nears a 25-year high, would he consider maybe trying something different?
Trying something other than supporting a massive plus-up in funding from his predecessor, cracking down on gun trafficking and gun violence, which is a major driver of the violence we've seen across the country. I think most people who want to fight crime would agree that's the right approach.
Judge Janine, want to take a crack at that?
I got to tell you, I have to sit here in shock when I hear the governor of New York and the mayor of New York talk about things that can be done today or yesterday before all of these cops are killed. 59% higher numbers of cops killed in 2021 than in 2020. 73 cops killed in felonious assaults, murdered, felonious killings. Now, let me tell you how to get rid of guns, and you get rid of the people who are shooting the guns, number one. You put them in jail, and just like they defined deviancy down, I think it was Daniel Patrick Moynihan. We are so used to things being so bad that if we allow it to continue more, then we're not going to care about the crime that's happening. We're going to say, oh, it's not as bad as last year. It's not as bad as the year before. The bottom line is this. If you don't put career criminals in jail, and the guy who killed the police officer in New York City and the one who is presently fighting for his life was a career criminal with mental illness who had an illegal gun and had an AR loaded under his bed. Now, that guy is a problem. He shouldn't have had those weapons, and he shouldn't be out of jail. Because what we're doing now is, even if he is arrested, he's being released immediately. You want to get rid of guns, here's how you do it. You get a confidential informant. You get someone undercover. You do surveillance. You get wiretaps. You get search warrants. You join with the state, the local, and the Fed. I did it myself as a DA. You put together a task force. Don't talk about it. Do it, and don't defund the police, and don't come out. I want to give Mayor Adams the benefit of the doubt, but don't come out and say, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Just do it. Now he says we're going to put 80% of the city's violence where it takes place in 30 police precincts. We're going to put a lot more manpower, person power. No kidding. It's called CompStat. We did it years ago. They gave away broken windows. They're letting criminals run rampant. These politicians are hypocrites. They don't want to jail them. They don't want to lock them up. They don't want to prosecute them. They don't have task forces. And then they say these guns are coming into New York. They're not made in New York. So what? We have the toughest gun laws in the country, the governor says. So what? You're not prosecuting and you're not jailing them. You're worthless. Your words are worthless. You're a liberal. You're defunding cops, and you don't care about the victims. You never did, and you never will unless there's a funeral going on.
This has reached the levels where it's getting asked at the White House briefing, and not just by Fox News. Let's take a look at Trey Gowdy from his show last night, some of the things he had to say.
Americans have the right to be safe because there is no liberty, there is no pursuit of happiness without life. You can't vote if you're dead. You can't sign up for a government program if you're dead. You can't build back better if you're dead. So what is he doing about it?
In particular, last night, one of the things Trey Gowdy went through is several of the young women who have been killed in just the last couple of weeks.
Well, you can vote if you're dead, and I think we saw some of those. Just kidding, Dana. Yeah, and has Biden even called the family of any of these victims? They haven't announced anything. I'm sure another president would have called. This was an experiment. This soft on crime thing was an experiment. We warned them it was going to fail and cause death, but they did it anyway. It's like gain of function, right? We said it was going to maybe kill people, but they risked it, and then everybody died. You know where it started? And I don't care because my sister's not watching. It starts at the university level. These stupid professors have this dumb idea that America creates criminals. Because of income inequality, because of systemic racism, that is what creates criminals. And then when you incarcerate them, Dana, that's just going to harden the criminals. So we can't incarcerate them. We have to release them and give them rehab. Now, Soros bankrolled it. And now what's the lesson? You can't allow dumb professors and a billionaire donor and a power-hungry Democrat in the same room together, because you're going to get death. And I don't know if they did this on purpose to cause a crime wave. A lot of communists want to destroy America from the inside, or whether they're just too stupid to know that their theories that they think of don't actually work when you put them into practice. Now, before they move on to another stupid experiment that's going to get people killed, they should actually have to face the pain they're causing. They have to get out of their penthouse, get out of their ivory tower, because there's blood on the streets and they're not affected by it. They should have to go look at some of these family members in their face, feel the anguish, see the pain, spend the night in North Philly, spend the night on the South Side, see what it's like, see what their policies are actually doing. Because until they actually register some of that pain, I think they're going to still cause that. The Democratic Party's on the clock now. I mean, they are now branded as the party of death and crime. That's not good for business.
I wanted to ask, Harold, do you think that the Democratic Party is understanding this moment?
Well, I've said, first of all, it's good to be around the table again. I've said on the show before, I don't think this is, we should step back. This is not a Democratic issue. There are Republican governors who are overseeing this. There are Republican mayors in Florida and Oklahoma and Texas and other places that are overseeing this. But there's no doubt, in the last year, we have seen a movement, people who are more aligned to the Democratic Party suggesting we had to defund the police. The President of the United States has said that's wrong. The leader of this city, Mayor Eric Adams, ran on saying that's wrong. I'm not a Democrat that believes in that. Number two, the answer is yes. If they're Democrats who believe that defunding the police and going soft on crime was somehow another winning strategy, that should be refuted, and they should understand that's not the right thing to do. I give Adams some credit. I do think you're right. CompStat has been something we've always known. You look at the stats and figure out where you apply the resources. Hopefully he's able to do that. I do hope he also floods the subways with police officers. You have to have one victory to beget another victory. Dana has a story. We all have stories, but Dana has a really personal story that just reinforced this for all of us around the table. Two, you have to do something with guns. I understand the notion that guns don't kill people, but you got to have a gun to kill them. And if someone gets really angry and they don't have a gun, they can't shoot me. We have to figure out ways for Democrats and Republicans alike to come together around some of this ghost gun stuff. And we have to your point, their laws, they got to punish these people. If we have to build more prisons to put them in and have mandatory minimums for them, we should have that.
One of the things the White House has said a couple of times is that, well, we're for more money for cops. Like, money would be welcome, I'm sure, but it's not just that. It's the progressive prosecutors.
Yeah, no, you have Alvin Bragg, who's basically not prosecuting what do you call when somebody is caught with a gun, they're released.
Yeah,
and so it's a misdemeanor, and they call it the iron pipeline. These guns are coming in. Nobody's being prosecuted. If you do actually put them away for a long time, that's a good thing to do. We're seeing, I think this is a rebound to a movement, right? You're seeing intentional cop killings at a 20-year high. When you go and you look back at it, where was they're going since 9/11. That's a really weird comparison. You should remove 9/11 and see how far it goes back, right? This is a rebound. We kind of predicted this when there was this constant, relentless drumbeat from the media and the far-left activists that devalued the lives of law enforcement. They never said, like, these human lives aren't worth it. But if you said Blue Lives Matter, what were you called?
Right.
People had to apologize when they said Blue Lives Matter. So now we're in a situation where you're seeing this sense that these lives are devalued. And it's weird how, like, the left does not believe in free will, but they believe it if it's an inanimate object. So a rock can hit an Asian woman in the head, an SUV could plow into a parade, a bullet can leave an illegal gun, right? It's like they talk about gun possession. Literally, I think they mean it. I think the gun is possessed. It's like it's an autonomous weapon. There's no actual criminal there firing it. It's a possessed gun. But then you think about, well, what about the woman that was pushed in front of a subway? No gun. What about the woman in the furniture store? That was a knife. Are all of these just possessions? You know, I don't know. Then you have a governor saying, despite all of our gun laws, this is happening. Well, maybe it's because you're not enforcing the gun laws. You have to. So I came up with a word. I invented a new word. It's called excusions, right? It's an excuse disguised. See? It's an excuse disguised as a solution. And the result is nothing changes. So what you always hear are excusions, when in fact you should be hiring more cops. You should be flooding the area, especially the subways. You should be locking up all of the illegal gun users for a long time. But the best and most important thing, we have to start reinstitutionalizing immediately, restore cash bail. But we have to bring back stop and frisk right now, even if it's temporary, just to get the guns off the street. But the reinstitutionalization, getting the criminally deranged off the streets is going to do a lot.
Excusions.
Excusions.
I like it.
Yeah, it sounds like
You should use it tonight.
Yeah, I might.
It sounds like a fruit drink.
Tomorrow.
I'd love an excusion.
Yeah, what's a day without an excusion?
Yes, exactly. It's inexcusable.
It's a transfusion.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.